Chapter 071, Beast. I'll fucking wreck you. The train rattled and bucked like a bronco, the violent tremors originating from the carriage behind. Secret Service agents, struggling to keep their footing, peered anxiously out the windows, their blood running cold at the sight that greeted them, bathed in the pale moonlight. A colossal black worm was coiled around the rearmost car, spiraling around it in thick, oily rings. Dozens of meters long, its body was encased in a chitinous exoskeleton, gleaming black and reflecting the moon's glow with a sinister sheen. At its head was a gaping maw, lined with concentric circles of razor teeth. The monstrous worm was tearing into the train car's steel shell, ripping out jagged chunks. One field operative was swallowed whole, his scream cut brutally short, pulverized into bloody pulp by the creature's grinding jaws. Harlan felt a jolt of ice water through his veins. The audacious thought that had just begun to form in his mind evaporated instantly. Bryce's face went ashen. Black earthworm. Harlan ripped his Desert Eagle from its holster at his back and emptied a round into the black, armored worm. He glanced at the combat information flashing across his optical panel, and his gut clenched. Monster detected. Black earthworm level 48 stage, larval stage LV.10 / juvenile stage LV.10 / adult stage LV.10 / mating stage LV 10 / stage LV.8 age 71 years. Attributes: strength 80, agility, endurance, intelligence, mysticism, charm 1, luck 2, stamina 0. Energy level. Health points. Traits: thick chitinous exoskeleton, defense +20, nocturnal adaptation, attribute bonus +15% in darkness, massive frame, health points +1000. Critical hit rate received -20%, iron jaws, +25% extra damage to metal, diluted earth dragon bloodline, health points +2000, abnormal resistance +10%. Skills: Constrict Kill LV.7, Earth Glide LV.10, Rotary Bite LV.6, Acid Spit LV.5. Even a goddamn beast has more luck than me. Harlan thought bitterly. Go figure. Open fire. Secret Service agents drew their sidearms and returned fire, the gunshots deafening in the confined space. Bullets sparked harmlessly against the black earthworm's thick armor, failing to penetrate. The wilderness of Aquamarine Star was notoriously lethal, teeming with savage beasts. History was riddled with tales of cities ravaged by monstrous hordes. Humanity had clawed its way to the top of the food chain only through sheer collective intellect and firepower. Black earthworms were long-lived creatures, their bodies growing continuously with age. Normally docile, nocturnal beings, they dwelled in subterranean slumber, rarely stirring unless the ground above was subjected to violent tremors that disturbed their rest. It dawned on everyone at once. The train's passage had roused this colossal black earthworm. To prevent such encounters, every railway line was assigned a dedicated maintenance crew. At regular intervals, they deployed various instruments to inspect the tracks, including underground life detectors capable of spotting black earthworms. If this particular worm had not arrived after the last inspection, then the maintenance crew had taken a gamble and slacked off. The field operatives, now prey, frantically returned fire, but the small caliber rounds of their pistols were about as effective against the black earthworm's 100+ defense rating as a mosquito bite. All the explosives and heavy weaponry were in the storage car, separated by the very carriage under attack. The agents were cut off from their gear. Handguns were useless. The situation was critical. Chaos reigned. Gale-force winds whipped through the ravaged carriage, scattering debris out of the gaping holes. Ripped away by the high-speed train, the train tilted precariously at a 15-degree angle, its undercarriage screeching against the rails, showering sparks, threatening to topple under the black earthworm's immense weight. Get clear! Lyra's sharp cry cut through the pandemonium. She launched herself into the air, drawing a folding combat blade, its edge wreathed in a brilliant yellow aura of energy. She brought it down in a savage arc on the worm's carapace, a sickening crunch echoing through the carriage as a visible crack spiderwebbed across the chitin. It worked. Martial artists could maximize the destructive force of Kai, their blows imbued with superhuman power. In this desperate situation, their skills were proving invaluable. Desusu's eyes flashed with resolve. She followed Lyra instantly, drawing her own folding blade. A cyan energy flared along its edge. Her strike was lightning fast. A brutal side slash that sheared off a chunk of the worm's armor, leaving a faint blue afterimage burned onto the agent's retinas. The black earthworm, however, remained unfazed. Relying on its impenetrable hide, it was a picture of reptilian indifference, as if to say, "Hit me all you want, I dare you to even make me flinch." It continued to tighten its coils, the train car groaning and twisting under the immense pressure. The beasts of Aquamarine Star were notoriously tough, their layered traits and abilities making them incredibly resilient. This black earthworm was clearly a wilderness, boss-level monster. It would take the firepower of a modern military squad to bring it down. Even for players, it was a raid boss, a challenge for a 5 to 10 person team though. Of course, there were always those god-tier pros who could solo anything. Crunch, crunch. 2 more delectable human snacks vanished into the black earthworm's gullet. This succulent fare was far superior to the gritty sand worms of the deep. The worm's mandibles ground together, as if savoring the rare, fresh delicacy. A wave of primal terror washed over the field operatives. The raw, predatory presence of a creature from the apex of the food chain stripped away their human arrogance, reducing them to trembling, cornered prey. Fire, black earthworms are afraid of fire, Desusu yelled. Black earthworms had degenerated eyesight, but were highly sensitive to light and heat. Firelight and intense heat acted on them like flashbangs on humans, capable of damaging their vision. If they didn't act fast, the train was doomed. The agents realized with grim clarity that their only option was to use fire to drive off the worm. Wade frantically swapped his standard magazine for a high incendiary clip. Special rounds. Usually, agents stuck to standard ammo. Bang, 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 instantly. The black earthworm's seemingly invulnerable armor erupted in the magnificent flames of the great FFF Inquisition. The worm, so composed moments before, now thrashed violently. The blinding light and searing heat were agonizing, throwing it into a berserk rage, like a baboon denied its mate. Harlan stood his ground like a steel rod, the escalating tremors making him wonder if the train was about to roll. Most Secret Service agents had purchased his high incendiary rounds. This situation was well within the 13th Bureau's operational parameters. He was content to play spectator. Tendrils of flame blossomed across the black earthworm's hide. Before long, the creature couldn't stand the searing light and heat assaulting its sensory organs. With a deafening shriek, it uncoiled from the carriage, thrashing wildly, and burrowed back into the earth. Soil and gravel erupted as it vanished beneath the surface. In mere seconds, the colossal body was swallowed by the ground, leaving only a layer of loose earth to mark the spot of its burrow. The field operatives, snatched from the jaws of death, went weak in the knees, collapsing onto the ravaged floor, still trembling with adrenaline. "We're alive. I'm not dead. I'm not dead. Mom, I miss you so much." The black earthworm's attack had lasted mere minutes, yet the devastation was immense. The carriage was riddled with holes, letting in blasts of wind. If they hadn't driven it off in time, the train would have been wrecked, and lives, well, maybe not lost, but they'd definitely be late. Thank God for high incendiary rounds. Everyone's gaze drifted towards Harlan, a spark of gratitude flickering in their eyes. Wade clapped Harlan on the shoulder, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. "A good feeling. If you want to thank me, use your words. I'm not a mind reader." Silence. Everyone was speechless. "Dude, your ability to kill the mood is expert level," someone thought. The field operatives, recovering from their near-death experience, began to survey the wreckage. The black earthworm attack was just a minor detour. It proved that the military rail lines were relatively safe, this being the only incident. The scenery that flashed by was mostly distant mountains, dense forests, and endless plains of yellow earth. It grew monotonous quickly. The entire journey, Harlan stayed in the black cargo car, honing his Kai refinement techniques and tinkering with mechanical components. Grinding experience. 3 days later, the train pulled into the Haisha border station, Chapter 072 Faction Mission Haisha, sharing the same continent as Star Dragon. Felt different. Perhaps it was the more humid and hotter climate, but the culture seemed more open. Even away from the beaches, bikini-clad beauties and men strolled freely. The train hissed to a stop at the military station. Peering out the window, Harlan spotted a lone figure on the platform, a middle-aged man in sunglasses and a loud, floral shirt. Looked like their contact. Harlan disembarked with the rest of the team. Bryce, leading the way, approached the flamboyantly dressed man. Star Dragon 13th Bureau, Bryce. The man chuckled, peeling off his sunglasses to reveal a stubble-covered, world-weary face. His aura was utterly unremarkable. Like a corner store owner waiting for customers, picking at his teeth. Haisha Military Intelligence Finn. Harlan nearly choked. Finn, which Finn are you? What the hell happened to you? Where's the badass cool, the aloof handsomeness? This vibe doesn't match any Finn I've ever imagined. Finn glanced at the train. Riddled with holes. You guys run into wildlife? Just a minor black earthworm incident. Nothing to worry about. Bryce coughed, trying to sound nonchalant. Even if it had been a close call, they couldn't lose face in front of the Haisha agents. Gotta project an image of unflappable calm, political correctness. No problem. Lucky you made it through in one piece. Finn chuckled again, not pressing Bryce on the truth of his words, after a few more pleasantries. Finn replaced his sunglasses. No time to waste. We need to report in to the commander, file the mission paperwork, and then move out. Don't complain about the bureaucracy. Compared to Red Maple, we are skipping about 90% of the red tape. Some of the field operatives chuckled. Red Maple's bureaucratic rigidity was a running joke. Rumor had it that last time, the Sand Nomad-dominated Tilius Agency had partnered with Red Maple to take down a rogue warlord. The Sand Nomads, known for their impatience, were driven to the brink of insanity by Red Maple's convoluted reporting procedures. They almost came to blows with Red Maple officials at the Karoma headquarters. The Joint Operation Protocol required both sides to file mission paperwork with their commanding officers before commencing operations. For this mission, the Haisha military would handle the frontal assault. The agents would infiltrate ahead, gather intel, and reconnoiter the Dark Raven Valley base, pinpointing its location, assessing troop deployments, and so on. Walking through the station, they passed rows of gleaming military-grade armored SUVs and light tanks parked in garages. Missile launchers mounted with honeycomb launchers. Squads of soldiers were hauling crates of ammunition and supplies. Wade, D'Souza, Mason, and the other Star Dragon agents became tight-lipped, eyes straight ahead, a stark contrast to their earlier chatter on the train. National pride, probably. Harlan, seeing this, decided to keep a low profile. Blending into the group, Commander Kelt, a stern-faced white man in his prime, was studying a strategic map on the wall, hands clasped behind his back. Hearing the door open, he assumed it was his adjutant. Without turning around, he barked, "Didn't I say not to disturb me when I'm thinking?" Finn coughed. "Commander, the Star Dragon team is here to file their paperwork." Kelt turned, his expression softening slightly when he saw Finn. He narrowed his eyes, scanning the Star Dragon agents with a cold, appraising gaze. He grunted, opened a drawer, grabbed a file, and slammed a stamp onto it with a thump. "Take them to the waiting room. We move out with our people in an hour." His tone was curt, dismissive. Kelt's indifferent attitude toward the 13th Bureau team was palpable. Finn led them to a Spartan waiting room. "Don't wander off, we'll be moving out soon." Once Finn was gone, leaving them alone, Yara finally spoke, voice hushed. "Did anyone else notice those soldiers looking at us funny? Like they are hostile, and that commander seems to hate us," Mason scoffed. "Didn't you know? Star Dragon and Haisha used to be at war. They don't exactly love us. Agents on joint operations in other countries always get this kind of cold shoulder. And Kelt doesn't strike me as the diplomatic type. Factional rivalries within intelligence agencies were commonplace. Every nation had its own version. Red Maple and Audrey leaned conservative, Rain and Tilius were more hawkish. Star Dragon and Haisha were somewhere in the middle." Yara was incredulous. "Then, why is the Bureau doing a joint op with Haisha? What if they use us as cannon fodder? Who knows what those upstairs are thinking?" "Just watch your own back." Mason was nonchalant. A seasoned operative in the Secret Operations Division, he'd seen it all before. Bryce cleared his throat. "Don't worry. Any deployment orders involving you guys have to go through me." They chatted for a bit, then fell silent, closing their eyes to conserve energy. Mentally preparing for the mission. "Gonna grab a smoke." Harlan rose and stepped outside the waiting room, lighting a cigarette. He inhaled deeply, letting the nicotine burn down his throat and circulate through his lungs, exhaling 2 plumes of smoke through his nostrils. A wave of relaxation washed over him. He ignored the cold stares from the soldiers moving supplies nearby, mentally diving into the mission details that had just popped up on his panel. Faction mission triggered. Operation Dark Raven Valley Mission Brief. A military operation of small-scale war proportions is underway. As a member of the 13th Bureau and a participant in this operation, see what you can accomplish. Hint: this mission is part of a faction series. You can complete the following objectives during this mission: Recon I. Team Mission: reconnoiter the situation in Ravenwood Town. Reward: 3,000 experience. Recon Roman II. Team Mission: gather detailed intelligence on the Dark Raven Valley base. Reward: 8,000 experience. Logistics Support. Personal Mission: complete 20 tool repairs for teammates. Reward: 5,000 experience. Shadow in the Woods. Personal Mission: assassinate 8 sentries. Reward: 18,000 experience. Frontal Assault. Personal Mission: eliminate 50 Sprout soldiers. Reward: 35,000 experience. Decapitation Strike I. Eliminate Domin. Reward varies based on contribution. Decapitation Strike Roman II. Eliminate Season. Reward varies based on contribution. Decapitation Strike Roman III. Eliminate Parker. Reward varies based on contribution. Destroy Dark Raven Valley. Achieve mission objectives. Reward varies based on mission completion and contribution. Mission completion rating. An extra reward will be granted based on the number of objectives completed and overall performance. Harlan had assumed this was a standard mission. Turns out it was a faction mission. Even better, more room to maneuver. Missions came in many flavors: competitive jackpot series, faction missions. As long as you completed most of the objectives, guaranteed solid rewards, plus the bonus for mission rating at the end. Harlan was puffing away when a short-haired redhead approached. Stopping in front of him, hesitantly she asked, "You're with Star Dragon?" Harlan glanced at her, nodding. "Yeah, sort of," before the words were even out. The redhead snatched a dagger from her waist, lunging at his throat with lethal intent. Chapter 073 Test of Steel. Harlan watched the redhead, unblinking. Unmoved, the dagger halted abruptly, centimeters from his carotid artery. The sudden stop, the controlled aggression, spoke of formidable physical command. The redhead's eyes flashed with predatory fury. "Why didn't you dodge? Why would I? You think I wouldn't dare stab you? Go ahead, try." Harlan's expression remained impassive. Beneath his clothes, unseen, the magnetic control extension armor was already creeping up his collar, ready to shield his neck. He was completely unfazed. Besides, she was bold enough to walk around a military base. She had to be Haisha intelligence. No way she'd actually go through with it. This had to be a test. A show of force. Choosing him as the target, Harlan felt a flicker of annoyance. His gaze sharpened, radiating a palpable pressure. A sudden chill prickled down the redhead's spine. An inexplicable sense of danger. She composed herself, sneering, "Wenna, military intelligence," as she spoke, Wenna suddenly felt something hard press against her abdomen. Looking down, she saw the muzzle of a large-caliber handgun jammed into her gut. Only then did Harlan crack a smile. Harlan, fast, I didn't even see him draw that gun. Wenna's pupils contracted. She sheathed her dagger. Harlan lowered his pistol. I'll remember that. Wenna spun on her heel and stalked away. Harlan narrowed his eyes. Haitian people are definitely not friendly. Hope they don't drag me down. After walking a distance, Wenna exhaled, a sigh of relief escaping her lips. She realized beads of cold sweat had formed at her temples. Her expression was somber. That Star Dragon agent, she thought, felt seriously dangerous. Wenna returned to the Haitian agent's waiting room. Finn greeted her with a smile. Anything interesting? Wenna took a swig of water, clearing her dry throat. That Harlan, he might be trouble. Harlan, based on the physical description, Finn recalled the name. The guy had been low-key ever since they got off the train, only reacting with a strange look when his name was mentioned. Weird dude, Finn concluded. Harlan finished his cigarette, stubbed it out, and returned to the waiting room. Bryce glanced up, suddenly asking, "Everything all right out there?" "Yeah, saw a pig fall into a ditch." Bryce's face twitched. "Can you be serious for once?" "Then yeah, nothing happened." Harlan scratched his ear. It was just a probing move, nothing serious. He didn't want to make a big deal out of it for mission security. And because he didn't see the point in petty squabbles, in his book, enemies fell into 3 categories. First, those who were rivals in petty disputes or infringed on his interests. Second, enemies who wanted him dead, a direct threat to his life. Third, mortal enemies driven by both hatred and conflicting interests. Sprout was category 3. Facing an enemy of that priority, petty rivalries could wait in the queue. Bryce gave Harlan a long look. His seat by the window gave him a clear view of the doorway. He'd seen the whole exchange. He'd been on countless field ops, knew that foreign agents would always test posture. It was practically unwritten protocol. Agents were all prideful. You had to show your teeth to get respect. Complaining to superiors would just get you laughed at. Bryce's eyes flickered with approval. He was impressed by Harlan's reaction, didn't back down, didn't lose face, and he appreciated Harlan's discretion in keeping it quiet. This kid's got skills and a good head on his shoulders. He thought. They didn't fight. Kelt listened to his adjutant's report, nodding in satisfaction. Good. Looks like those Star Dragon people know whose turf they are on. Soon enough, it was time to move out. The team gathered at the border checkpoint. Finn, Wenna, and a dozen Haitian agents were ready to roll. The first stop was a remote, disused Haitian safe house, a good distance from Ravenwood town, a temporary staging area. The 13th Bureau's vehicles had been transported by train. Standard SUVs, except for Harlan's behemoth black truck, loaded with his team, rumbling to life. This time, Harlan drove with meticulous care. Lyra was practically weeping with relief. The other 3 crammed into the cab were clueless, unable to fathom Lyra's near-hysterical gratitude. The journey was about half a day. The Haitian convoy took the lead. The 13th Bureau trailing behind. Suddenly, the Haitian vehicles accelerated, widening the gap. D'Souza and Mason, seeing this, sped up to close the distance. Only Harlan, in his black truck, hung back, unhurried. "Brother Zyro, we should catch up," Yara urged. Harlan gripped the steering wheel with one hand, the other dangling out the window, catching the breeze. "What's the rush? They can run all they want. They'll still have to slow down and wait for me later." "Yeah, but," static crackle. D'Souza's laughter crackled over the radio. "Little Lynn, where'd you guys disappear to? Hurry up, you falling behind. Or is Harlan's driving skills not up to par?" "Fuel economy," Harlan deadpanned. D'Souza blinked. Never heard that excuse before. Since when did intelligence agents worry about gas money? Mason's voice came over the comms. Old Zhang, this is Heisha flexing. We can't look weak. Wade pondered for a few seconds, then patted Harlan's shoulder. Catch up to them. Lyra's face drained of color. She grabbed Wade's sleeve, tugging frantically. Please no, Captain. This speed is perfect. What are you so scared of? Wade was bewildered. Captain. Isn't being alive a good thing? Lyra's voice trembled, on the verge of tears. Wade was completely lost, utterly baffled. You sure about this? Harlan raised an eyebrow. Dead sure, Wade nodded. Harlan sighed, smoothly shifting gears. All right then, buckle up. Lyra's face was a mask of terror, her knuckles white as she gripped the door handle. Teeth chattering. You'll all regret this. Afternoon. They reached their destination. As everyone piled out of the vehicles, Cease's gaze was glued to the black behemoth. A mix of terror, astonishment, and disbelief in her eyes. Recalling the ride, a shiver ran down her spine. As veteran agents, they'd seen S curves, Z curves, but this was the first time they'd witnessed and curves, and somehow they were still keeping pace. Was the truck driver drunk? Wade. Yara and Lyra staggered out, collapsing against a nearby tree, retching their guts out, wishing they could unexist. Bleg, feel like I'm gonna die. Puke, told you you'd regret it. Gag, Harlan dismounted with a casual swagger, a cigarette dangling from his lips. He glanced sideways. You guys wanted me to catch up. Were you a bumper car driver in your past life? Harlan scoffed. Bumper cars? That was an insult. He used to pilot mechs. Lambert climbed out of the truck. Steady on his feet, seemingly unfazed, Harlan's eyes lit up. See, there are normal people out there. Lambert opened his mouth to say something to Harlan. But before he could, a torrent of vomit erupted like a waterfall. Once he'd emptied his stomach, Lambert, face expressionless, finally spoke. Touch that steering wheel again. And I'm jumping out. Chapter 074. Split teams. Vehicles parked. They hauled their gear into the safe house and started the pre-mission briefing. We have two objectives. First, disguise ourselves as wanderers, infiltrate Ravenwood Town to gather intelligence. Second, patrol the vicinity for lone sprout sentries, interrogate them for details on the dark Raven Valley base. Wenner immediately interjected, We'll handle the sentries. Your people can go to Ravenwood. D'Souza frowned. Ravenwood Town was likely crawling with sprout informants. Infiltrating it risked exposure, putting them in the lion's den, with minimal intel payoff. Interrogating sentries, on the other hand, was safer and more likely to yield immediate results. Heisha was clearly trying to dump the risky, low-reward task on the 13th Bureau. The attitude rubbed the 13th Bureau team the wrong way, but missions were missions. Someone had to do it. No one protested. Bryce continued, To infiltrate Ravenwood Town first, we need to disguise ourselves as wanderers. Then, find opportunities to discreetly gather information. Absolutely no alarms, no slip-ups. After discussion, they decided a small team would stay at the safe house for comms and backup. 4 people, Yara, Bryce, Mason, and Harlan. Heisha also left a few agents behind, including Finn, whom Harlan had already met. It was afternoon. The Heisha team decided to rest, planning to move out at dawn to hunt for sentries when the enemy would be most relaxed. They were equipped with thermal imagers. Darkness was their ally. It also conveniently put the 13th Bureau in the minesweeping position, going in first. Plans finalized, the 13th Bureau infiltration team, led by D'Souza, transformed into weary wanderers. They donned dusty, patched-up clothes, adopting slouching postures, as if bowed under invisible burdens. The disguise was convincing. Shouldering bulky packs, they set off on foot towards Ravenwood Town. Inside the safe house, computer screens flickered to life, displaying feeds from the agents' bodycams and open comm channels. Harlan, Yara, and Bryce rotated shifts, monitoring the situation. Soon, D'Souza's team reached Ravenwood Town. The feed showed a sprawling settlement, a patchwork of buildings, a bustling hub of makeshift structures. Though the houses were crude and small, the population was dense. A vibrant, almost chaotic marketplace, the town was surprisingly large and self-sufficient, even boasting an inn with open doors. First, let's find a place to stay. D'Souza and her team were accosted by locals, questioned about their origins. She played her part flawlessly, posing as a migrating group of wanderers. Passing through, hoping for a few days' rest. Satisfied, the locals let them be. They checked into the town inn. Once inside their rooms, the agents' professional instincts kicked in. They meticulously swept the rooms for hidden cameras and listening devices. Assured of their privacy, they began to discuss their next move. What now? Lyra grumbled, still radiating hostility towards D'Souza. D'Souza, in no mood for Lyra's petulance, rested her chin on her hand, frowning thoughtfully. Our cover is flimsy, best to lay low for now. Suddenly, Harlan's voice cut in over the comms. You should move tonight. Reason? D'Souza arched an eyebrow. You're playing wanderers. Acting like wanderers means asking about local conditions. That's normal. Hiding and doing nothing makes you look suspicious. Like you're up to something. Makes sense. They exchanged glances. All right, let's do it Harlan's way. Ravenwood Town had its share of entertainment, a seedy casino. A stimulant den, places to relieve certain urges. As night fell, the team split into pairs and trios, venturing out, feigning normal tourist activities. Discreetly probing for information, gathering intel, but they came up empty. The town's residents were mostly genuine wanderers, no sign of anything suspicious. Bryce's expression grew grim. They're buried deep. This could be a dead end. Not necessarily, Harlan chuckled. He knew Ravenwood Town harbored a Sprout informant, a key NPC for players looking to join the Sprout faction. If they could snag that NPC, they could extract a wealth of intel. Harlan knew the general location of Dark Raven Valley Base, but not the specifics of its defenses, troop strength, details too granular, too hazy after a decade. The timeline was different now too, no guarantee things hadn't changed. Intel gathering was crucial. Head to the south side of town, there's a casino. There should be a bald guy inside. He knows about the Dark Raven Valley Base. The Sprout informant Harlan was referring to. Ravenwood-born players needed him to join Sprout. The team was taken aback. D'Souza frowned. Where did you get this intel? Let's just say I have my sources. And what if your intel is wrong? D'Souza pressed. Just trust him, Bryce interjected. Before they left, his superiors had instructed him to trust Harlan. A sign of high-level confidence in the man. D'Souza bit back her doubts, reluctantly complying. She split her team, directing them to the casino on the south side. To scout it out, sure enough, they spotted a bald man dealing cards at a table. The casino's croupier. What now? If we move in directly, we'll spook him. Might have accomplices around, D'Souza queried. Harlan sighed, exasperated. You found the guy and you're still asking me what to do. Can't you use your agent's skills for once? D'Souza's chest tightened, speechless with annoyance, but she knew he was right. She'd asked a dumb question. Huffing, she signaled to her team. They began to subtly encircle the casino. Harlan checked the time, stood up to relieve Yara for the late shift. No need to babysit this operation. If they screwed this up, the Secret Service agents might as well hang up their badges. Meanwhile, Wenner and the Haysha team had set out. As she left, Wenner shot Harlan a venomous glare. Harlan decided against staying in the safe house. He stepped out. Returning to the black truck's cargo bay, lost in thought, the two recon missions were team objectives. They'd get done, no doubt. He needed to focus on the personal missions. Assassinating sentries in the dense forest, he'd need a few gadgets. Harlan pulled out components, mentally engaging with his panel. Initiate knowledge fusion. Basic area perception plus basic bionics plus basic mechanical engineering. Fusion cost, 15,000 experience. Congratulations, you have developed small arthropod detector. Spider, Wenner's team, equipped with night vision and environmental cloaking suits, moved silently through the woods, like hunters in the dark. Seeking prey, to reach the dark Raven Valley base, they had to find the sentry lines. Their tracker, a master of his craft, could decipher day-old tracks in the forest floor. Magnus, a hulking sand nomad, built like a small mountain, surprisingly deft, knelt, sifting soil through his fingers, bringing it to his nose, inhaling deeply. He closed his eyes, concentrating. 7 hours ago, one person, male, weight approximately 180 pounds, direction, southwest, Wenna didn't doubt Magnus's judgment. She led her team cautiously, when suddenly, she froze. Her thermal imager registered a heat signature in a tree 300 meters ahead, a figure perched high in the branches. Sweep the area. Wenna remained calm, no rash moves. She ordered her team to check for other sentries, surveillance, anything. They meticulously scanned the area for 20 minutes. Confirming it was clear. Take him down, Finn ordered over comms. Wenna moved. A pulse of dark red energy flared at her feet, vanishing instantly, with lightning fast. Silent strides, she closed the distance, weaving through trees, staying in the enemy's blind spots, a phantom assassin. She scaled a tree with feline agility. Her hands glowing with crimson energy, like octopus suckers gripping the bark. She leaped from branch to branch, suppressing the rustle of leaves, closing in from above. The Sprout sentry suddenly felt a gust of wind brush his hair. He looked up. A dark shape was hurtling towards him, expanding rapidly in his vision. Chapter 075 Hacker 10 minutes later. Snap! Magnus twisted the sentry's neck. They had their information. Wenna spoke into her comm. Preliminary intel acquired. Base perimeter defense is divided into 6 zones. Progressively fortified. We're currently at the outermost zone. Each zone has sentry outposts commanded by an officer, according to the interrogation. Officers have access to the base's internal network. If we reach a sentry outpost, we can use the officer's computer to browse the network, gather detailed enemy intel. This sentry gave up the outpost location. Request immediate action. Finn hesitated. Delay was dangerous. Sentry rotations were routine. At most, a few hours before they'd realize this sentry was MIA. But if they could get the intel, exposure was a risk worth taking. The Haitian army was mobilizing anyway, no keeping that secret. Their goal was to map out Dark Raven Valley's defenses and forces. But if Wenna succeeded, the 13th Bureau team in Ravenwood Town would be at risk. A dead sentry and outsiders infiltrating Ravenwood Town on the same day. Even if the 13th Bureau team had no time to be involved, they could be suspected. At this moment, Finn made a calculated decision. Action approved. Proceed to the enemy outpost immediately. Wenna nodded, disposed of the body, and led her team onward. Finn exhaled, pulling his gaze from the screen. Glancing towards the 13th Bureau's office, a slight shake of his head. His decision wasn't personal, all for the mission. He'd notify the 13th Bureau later. Risk came with the job. Before dawn, Wenna's team located the sentry outpost, a secluded cabin in the woods like a hunter's shack. They approached stealthily. Magnus pulled out a sonic scanner from his pack, pressing it against the cabin wall. Activating it, the scanner whirred, displaying a black and white pixelated image. 3 humanoid targets inside, 1 slumped on a couch, 2 at a table, seemingly having a late-night snack, Wenna held up fingers, silently counting down. 3, 2, 1, Wenna exploded into action, bursting through the window, teammates right behind her. The 3 enemies, caught completely off guard, leaped up in shock, too stunned to yell or draw their weapons. Trained Haitian agents swiftly neutralized them with 3 tranquilizer darts each. The Haitian team immediately searched the cabin and the unconscious men. They found a hidden compartment in the wall containing a safe. Another agent located an ID card on one of the men, an officer's card, clearly marked. This is it. Wenna's face lit up. The officer in charge of the outpost. She checked the name on the card, Roman. Black. They hogtied Roman, then administered a stimulant injection. As he groggily regained consciousness, Magnus slapped him hard across the face, speeding up the process. He growled, "Don't want to die? Give us the safe code." Roman, terrified by the heavily armed agents, was a fountain of cooperation. No stoic resistance here. Code entered. The safe clicked open. Inside, a custom-built laptop, unlike any commercial model. Powering it on, a login screen appeared, requiring ID card authentication and password. Roman, still compliant, logged in with his credentials. A cheerful chime echoed from the speakers. A welcome message popped up on screen. Ding, 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 ding. Sprout idiot-proof operation assistant at your service, Tilda. Finn, mid-sip of coffee, choked, spraying his drink across the room. Every Haitian agent in the room twitched. That is so not the vibe, someone thought. Menus appeared, layers deep. Roman's clearance was low, limited access, but when his team spotted locked base logs, excitement flickered through them. "Let me." Finn gestured for Magnus to plug a chip into the laptop. Back at the safe house, Finn's screen instantly mirrored the laptop's display. Finn's expression hardened. His fingers danced across his keyboard, a blur of motion, code scrolling down the screen like a digital waterfall. Firewall layer 1, bypassed, firewall layer 2. Bypassed firewall layer 3, bypassed internal dynamic password, cracked access restrictions, overridden. Finn smirked. He was Haitia's top hacker, with a digital arsenal of hundreds of viruses and attack programs. Short of dark web monsters or pulling the plug, nothing could stop him. In under 3 minutes, all locked files were unlocked. Only then did the enemy's hackers react, initiating a frantic data purge. Finn countered, quickly backing up files. It was a race against time. Before long, all files were deleted. Finn's laptop, despite its processing power, wasn't fast enough. Even with his expertise, he only managed to back up 28%. Base file deletion prioritized top-secret documents first, but it was enough. The files Finn salvaged contained base defense deployments, internal layouts, terrain maps, and voluminous logs. Mission accomplished. Let's get back. Finn sighed with relief. This data breach would definitely put Dark Raven Valley on high alert. But intel secured, exposure was a minor concern. Still, a nagging feeling prickled at Finn's senses. It had all gone a little too smoothly. Report. Sir, outer network intrusion detected. Dark Raven Valley base, the intelligence control room, walls lined with monitor screens. A staffer spoke, voice calm. The base's deputy director, Season, a gaunt, sallow-faced man, approached the screen, unhurried. What data was compromised? Base experiment logs, internal layout maps, base coordinates, sentry rotation schedules. The staffer rattled off a dozen critical intel points. Despite the intrusion, no one in the room showed any sign of panic. Haitian, I presume? The bait's been laid, just waiting for the fish to bite. Season's lips curled into a predatory smile, like a hunter watching prey stumble into a trap. Season went to the director's office, reporting to Parker. We had a hacker intrusion into the outer decoy network. Haitian, most likely, expecting a military incursion soon. Parker meticulously polished a long black blade with a cloth. The blade was cold as ice, the steel straight and thick, the hilt wrapped in cloth, stained with dried blood. Years of it, judging by the patina. The blade had tasted many lives. Parker, absorbed in his task, didn't look up, didn't break his concentration. He simply asked. In a low voice, what do you suggest we do? Season cleared his throat. Even if they only got decoy intel, the base is compromised. I recommend requesting evacuation from the leader. Move all assets, all data, and before we pull out, inflict maximum casualties on the enemy. Parker murmured, still polishing the blade. Let me know if you need me to fight.